Stephen,
Andrew,
do you fancy spending a quiet night inside number 9?
I do. Do you?
I do. Yes, I very much do. And I'm very much looking forward to getting into the scripts. We are heading into A Random Act of Kindness, which is Series 7, Episode 5. Yeah.
Barreling towards the end of Series 7.
Here we are. Really looking forward to next week.
Yeah.
But we'll
let's
focus on
do
this
this
week first.
Yeah,
let's do it. Yeah.
God, this is just in the way of myself.
So just to give you a little bit of information, listeners, about what we do with these flicks through the script, we basically do exactly that. And we read the scripts and compare what we see in them with what we see on the screen in the final episode. We have done a more thorough kind of reaction episode, we believe.
Who knows?
Who knows?
You probably have a better idea than we do.
Can't really remember what we said. But yes, if you want to hear our broader thoughts on the episode, then go and listen to the original reaction episode from when the series first aired.
I just say I really enjoyed your nice pluralization of flicks through the scripts there.
Thank you. I was wondering if I'd put the S's in the right place.
I think you did it right. I think you pluralized the verb bit.
Flicks through the scripts. Or script. Flicks through the script.
Flicks through the script. Maybe we need an S on the other one as well.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're repeatedly flicking through the same script.
That's true. Yeah, it's just like a manic kind of flick. It's just,
and again! Yeah. Go again!
Just flick. Keep flicking,
again.
Mate. So how did you find going back to A Random Act of Kindness?
Let me just shock you. I'd forgotten about this episode pretty much entirely because it's been so long. And like every single time, seemingly, I watch another episode of this series, I go, oh, I remember that now.
And how was remembering it?
Well, I had, in my head, I feel like I had thought there was a lot more of the future stuff and a lot more time travel stuff going on, and a lot more happened in the future than actually happened in the future in the episode, if that makes sense.
It does, because I thought exactly the same thing. Yes.
Maybe someone has gone back into the past and changed this episode and re-uploads it to iPlayer, because it very much did feel like, there was just a tiny bit at the end.
Yeah.
I was looking at the time bar on the screen and going, we haven't had anything about the time travel yet.
Yeah. No, it was just weird. It was because it was like Rudolph's moments where he just gives the scientific little blurb bits in between scenes. And then a bit of his YouTube or whatever the Youku channel is. And then, just the end. And that's it.
Yeah. I don't know if I had sort of created this episode where they were like battling across time and it was having all these impacts.
Terminator.
Maybe that. Yeah. Like Terminator, but with, can you imagine Steve appearing in the past completely naked, insisting on stealing someone's boots and motorcycle?
What do
and
you
the
think
rest of their clothes.
What would he steal? I think he'd choose other things. Like the newspaper so he could do a crossword.
If Steve were to be jettisoned from the future back to the past, what would he seek first? Send us your thoughts.
Yeah.
There you go. Audience retention, mate. That's how you...
That's very clever. Very clever. So differences. First bit, anything stand out to you that was different in the script to what we saw?
No, and as this started, I think I kind of had in my head a really complex back and forth thing going on, which made me think there's not really been any changes for the first couple of pages of script. Is that because it had to be quite tight because there was going to be all sorts of zipping backward and forward? That soon became an unfounded feeling as it just stayed in the present.
I guess probably because, you're thinking like, oh, it's a time travel episode, so the script's going to be all over the place. We're going to be like forward in the 2060, what was it? 2062.
Yeah.
But no, it's that wasn't the episode. That's just in our heads.
Made that one up.
There was one thing that I noted, which was one of the directions at the beginning where it says about middle-aged mum Helen sits with her iPad in front of her on a stand. She seems lost in thought. Actually, she's busy typing.
Yeah, click, click, click.
She's doing the clicking.
Click, click.
And she seems like she knows what she's doing and she's focused on what she's doing rather than lost in thought.
Mm-hmm. The first thing I noticed was as Zach goes to sit down and she then starts to strike up a conversation with him, and he ignores her. There's a thing that says Helen goes to stroke his arm. I didn't notice that.
No.
I might have missed that. And then shortly after that, she doesn't make reference to making friends with the Archers.
She doesn't, yes.
They cut that little line out.
Yes, I've started making friends with the Archers. It's not normal. Yeah, and it also says she puts her iPad, just before that, she puts her iPad aside and smiles as she sort of sits to have a conversation with Zach, asking him how his day is. I didn't see any kind of smile. It was just
No, this is all very
strained, kind of like, oh, okay.
Very strained. Yeah.
The whole thing is, I'd forgotten how, I guess, strained is the word. Like the relationship between them from the start is just horrible to watch, really.
I mean, I'm surprised that with that the way it is that he goes to the kitchen and sits down in the kitchen. I would be assuming that he's pouring that bowl of cereal and heading off upstairs straight away. Like, why even bother?
Be one of those teenagers with like multiple bowls that have had cereal in and probably a little bit of milk still in the bottom of them that is turning. Making the room. I had a friend at primary school who did that, and I went round to his house and his bedroom stank. Yeah, it's really bad. It was like, I guess whatever milk becomes yogurt, becomes cheese, becomes...
He had just like whole wheels of brie sat in the bottom of bowls.
Oh, man.
Who'd have thought? Camembert?
A little bit of grated gammon that had not quite been finished. That was a callback. I don't know if you remember that we talked it.
Grated gammon.
Cocoa
God, I think you're great one. The thing is that we don't ever really find out enough to be able to kind of like sympathize one way or the other here. Like, I know we're kind of, the stereotype is that the teenager is unreasonable and just unpleasant because that's how teenage boys are. But we don't really have an insight into that backstory really, other than dad left. Yeah. And he resents mum for making dad leave essentially, and he's not surprised. We don't really, she's got some character flaws. Like she drinks a lot, but we can kind of maybe see why.
Is that a result of dad leaving?
She's boring. She's not got a lot about her. She's tries to strike up conversations and it's very superficial and all these things, but she doesn't come off as a bad person that deserves this. But there might be things that we don't know.
Yeah, and there's an exchange when they talk about, when she says he chose to leave, talking about the dad.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the exact wording, but there's the insinuation that there was maybe it wasn't just what he did.
Yeah.
Like, she was part of that. But yeah, as you say, there's not the substance to that we see. You can only kind of speculate. But
then I think she then seemingly doesn't treat him particularly nicely. Like, we get this line, and the line actually changed slightly, where he says, "I wasn't put on this earth to make you happy," and she responds, "It's scripted as you can say that again." Sorry, no, she does say, "Sorry, you can say that again." It's scripted so that's not nice at all, and she's just letting some of that frustration kind of like seep out. But again, not necessarily a flaw on her part, more just her frustration with being treated like this by her own son. And then he scripts is saying, "What does that mean?" Which then became in the filmed one, "What is that supposed to mean?" Which I think is a far better thing, because that's what you'd ask in an argument.
Oh yeah, that's the line,
mean?
isn't it? Yeah, nothing. You want to bin me off like you did Dad? Of course I don't. And he was the one who walked out, remember, not me.
And then that became then shifted to it was him that walked out. I don't know whether these were just things that made the conversation feel a bit more natural.
Yeah,
with some of these,
and then that's where she says, "Look, if I could go back and do things differently, I would." Which I suppose is
seeding.
And there's a couple of things that get taken out, which are maybe deemed too on the nose in terms of it's one of those where I don't think you would be able to, like, they don't give the game away about the time travel.
Yeah.
But if you're really used to the script, and if you're very much immersed in it, you'd be thinking, I think we're giving it away there.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that.
I think it's interesting. But I think it's interesting that despite the ability to change the course of the future by traveling back, which he's clearly looking to do, he doesn't go back seemingly to try and fix things with his parents and make sure that they don't split in the first place. We don't really seem to be told that that family stayed together as a happy family. There still seems to be this thing that it's just him and his mum. So he doesn't, whether it was unsavable or not or whatever, there doesn't seem to be a suggestion that that was something he tried to do.
Maybe he actually deemed the person that his dad went and set up a new life with was better for him.
Yeah.
And actually that relationship wasn't great anyway. So, yeah.
Yeah.
It was destined to fail, whether it failed when it did or a little bit later.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we'll
it's
give
always
them
going
that.
to.
Yeah.
We'll give them
It's
that.
always going to. You Feel Me, G was cut.
As were her feeble street gestures, I think. She gave a little bit of the hands, but we didn't go into like full on East Side.
We didn't, no. And then we just got, no one says beef anymore. I mean, people do say beef, but like
they do
in a particular context, I suppose.
A steak of what?
Yeah, exactly. No, we don't say that anymore. What do we say instead? That cow?
What sort of mince shall I put in this bolognese?
Cow
mince. Well, not pork or lamb. Let's put it that way.
Exactly.
Which one?
And then there's a bit of a shift in terms of the order of things.
Yeah, and I think the order, I think it needed it. Otherwise, things would have felt a little bit weird.
Yeah.
So it's scripted that she spills the coffee here, doesn't she?
Reaching for a paper.
Yeah. So that happens, and she starts wiping it up. Then in the script, we go to Zach's room, and the bird flies into his window. Yeah. And then straight away, it's lying on the floor, and Steve turns up. Which means that by the time it then gets to the him knocking on the door and him and the coffee still being mopped up, she's been mopping that coffee up for quite some time.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so it's switched to goes upstairs with him on the bed. Bird flies into the window. She then spills the coffee, starts mopping up. Steve appears, knocks on the door. she's just finishing mopping up and opens the door.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that makes more sense, I think.
Yeah. And then she opens the door. In the script, she says hello, and that is not there.
Nope.
It just goes straight to Bob saying, yes, I found this little double T bird outside your house. And then as far as I was aware, it's all pretty much true to script until they talk about Zach's teachers. Helen and Bob are talking about Zach's teachers. Did you get anything in between that?
I did not. Everything was as was, really. There's the odd little words that changes, but you guys don't want to hear that.
Yeah,
they barely want to hear this.
I mean, to be honest, as I've been editing other episodes, I'm like, there's too much. That's too pedantic. Like, that's not interesting in any way whatsoever to say. Oh, they said like way instead of root, or I don't know.
What does it mean? What does it mean?
Why would they change that? That's incredibly deep.
We've only got 2 more series of this to go. So if you want to undermine the entire premise, it's not long left. Keep listening, guys.
Yeah,
We're improving as we go.
Listening. Yeah.
It's taken nearly 7 full seasons of flicks through the scripts for Andy to go. That's probably not worth talking about, that, is it? Not only have you said them, you've also edited every single one, and now you're going.
Maybe that's. I was putting, I just put myself in the shoes of the listener. I was like, this is inane. This is
making changes to this podcast is like turning the Titanic. 7 seasons. You might get some reflection and to change course.
Finally. Right, let's go back. Let's redo everything we've done. Come on, let's go back through the
sardines. Now you're
the script's a little bit different from the final thing, but it's not. There's nothing worth talking
nothing major. About. Join us again next week when we'll be talking about Tom and Jerry.
Yeah, there you go. We could have.
What do you think about this week, Andy? Pretty much bang on. Brilliant. Join us again next week.
More or less exactly the same, apart from a couple of bits. Right. Have a good week. Yeah. So they talk about Zach's teachers. All Zach's teachers are terrible, so he tells me. And then Helen continues in the script. Mind you, from the way they run their parents' evening, I'm not sure the maths teachers can even tell the time. So a little reference to the time.
Is that?
Yeah. Take that out because it's obvious then, isn't it?
People telling the time.
It is just
time travel.
It's a little bit of script that is. It's more than is needed. Exactly.
Barely even worth talking about, really.
Barely worth talking about. And then same.
Suddenly, I've lost all motivation for the rest of this.
What are we doing with our lives?
Should we tune in again next Sunday when we'll waste everyone's time?
Time.
See
what you did there.
Don't say that. They'll know what's coming in the episode. Yes. So Zach comes down and meets Bob. Bob didn't really stare at Zach a beat too long.
No.
That was a pointed piece of direction that just didn't happen. Guess it would seem a bit weird.
Yeah, I think it would. I think it's like when he's coming through the door and he looks up and he's like Zach's at the top of the stairs, Bob's at the bottom of the stairs. Like that look is probably enough in terms of
staring at him.
Oh, there's someone there. And it gives a nice ambiguity, like thinking back to when you first watched the episode. So that's probably normal, but also could be something.
And as we go forward a bit in the episode, when they're spending time together and the conversations they're having and the kind of relationship they're building up, does start to feel a little bit
Bit
like this could be going
uncomfortable.
down an uncomfortable road
Yeah.
here. But
Yeah.
that wasn't scripted, nor did it happen. So irrelevant to this conversation.
Well, exactly. But it's thinking about, what's seeded, what you're meant to think maybe, or what you do think. There's a little bit of a change to Helen before she asks about whether Bob tutors.
Mm-hmm.
In the script, she says, "Wait, are you... Sorry, this is such a desperate question." She doesn't say this is such a desperate question.
There's also a little bit added in as the bird starts flying around. And
Yes.
Bob has there he goes. There's a Steve-ism, I think.
There he goes. Yeah, the bird recovers remarkably fast.
Zach also did not say it's bad luck to bring birds in a house.
I missed that.
It's because it wasn't there.
Yeah.
It was gone. It's taken out.
Bad luck.
Probably
to
a little bit on the
birds in
nose.
house, yeah.
I don't know why it would be on the nose.
No.
It made it too obvious they were going to do an episode about a fear of superstitious things later on.
That's true. That's the foreshadowing paraskevidicatryphobia. Yeah.
And if there's one thing you don't want to do with this program, it's foreshadow.
No. You're so cringe became you're so cringy. It's embarrassing.
I prefer that.
I like cringy more than cringe.
I also like the direction. Zach smiles in spite of himself.
Yes. Yeah, because he can't help but laugh at something that he has obviously finds funny because he's telling the joke. So
he played. So I think, yeah, that's very true. I hadn't thought of that. It's his own joke.
Yeah, it's like the direct core of his own sense of humour.
Nice. Yeah, that's what they tune in for. Little lines like that. I like that. Stay tuned, guys, because between all of the
golf shot. There's that one golf shot that brings you back to the.
Oh, how's he put that on the green from there? He's giving himself a cracking shot from a birdie here.
A birdie.
Hey.
Very good.
Oh, I hadn't even thought of that. That was unintended gold.
Yeah. Oh, we're rolling now. Okay.
Here we go. Right.
And we're in.
Don't big it up too much.
Don't worry. There's a bit cut here, Helen, after Zach says, yeah, whatever, anything to avoid spending time with her, which is his response to Bob offering some tutelage.
Yeah.
Helen then says, I can't do right for doing wrong at the moment. Bob says, I'm sorry, Double R. Helen says, no, I'm sorry, but thank you. Be nice to have you two geniuses in the house. Bob says, Genii, Double I. And that's the line I was thinking of, where it's...
Oh, two on the nose.
Double I, two of me.
Double I.
Yeah.
Ah.
But, and I think, are they overthinking that because they've got too close to it? I don't think you would jump to that conclusion.
No, it might be quite a nice thing at the end to go, that's enough. Because now you're saying that, and I think, yeah, that's really nice.
Genii. That's genius.
Should have kept that in. Why didn't they keep that in? Unbelievable. I
think they just overthought it. Or it was a timing thing.
So there's a thing with, so this is our first little bit from Rudolph, where we see Rudolph, isn't it?
Yeah. When we see him, yeah.
But again, so like Newton's first law, the beginning of this is actually over the scene that was sort of finishing up previously, isn't it? Rather than cutting to Rudolph, like hard cut, here's Rudolph now talking to you.
Yeah, because it's almost like we see them for the length of time it would have taken them to read those lines.
Yeah.
But we now have Rudolph's voiceover giving the second law.
Yeah. it says Rudolph has two toy cars, but he does not. They appear as if by magic in each of his hands as he talks about them.
It's very clever, isn't it?
It is. I wonder how it's like special effects.
It's like special effects.
This is actual special effects. Jason Isaacs.
Yeah. And it says Rudolph looks on forlornly, but we don't actually see his face.
True. Yeah.
He doesn't.
It just falls off the table.
Forlorn Rudolph.
No. That forlorn look would have been at the fact that this was not the life that he wishes he had, that he actually had.
That he had, and he's like, what am I doing now?
What the hell's happened here? Can you imagine? One day, wake up and hang on a minute.
I was like a really successful Nobel.
How would he know that he had a YouTube channel that he needed to make another video for?
Yeah.
Oh, how long have I been doing this?
How does that bit work? Yeah, that's a good question.
I've already signed up to the Creator Studio on YouTube. Yeah.
Those parallel timelines.
Oh, they've flagged these as being videos for kids, and now I can't get any monetization on them or anything like this. Is really annoying. All of those annoying little things.
Poor guy.
Poor Rudolph.
Poor Rudolph. Next bit is a big chunk that's missing, which I suppose is because the seeding of the archers idea was removed. Mm-hmm. So there was no need for this bit.
With Helen cooking downstairs.
Yeah, so Zach and Bob are having their exchange. Gravity, the earth spinning you, in terms of the outside forces acting on you right now. The harder you're pushed, the further you can travel. Yes. And then we go to International Kitchen Day, where Radio 4 is on and the Archers comes on the radio. Helen, hi guys, come on in, make yourselves at home. She's, I guess, talking to the Archers characters.
Oh, because she's friends with them, yeah.
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 Suddenly, Helen grimaces, screwing her eyes closed, a spasm of pain. She opens her eyes, then stares at the bottle of wine. I guess because that's not explored as much. So, like her being in pain, you obviously see she's got a little bit of back pain.
Yeah.
But that idea, where she stares at the bottle of wine, spasm of pain, she opens her eyes, stares at the bottle of wine, would suggest the drinking is related to the pain that she's in physically, as much as emotionally. But you don't get any of that, I don't think, or at least I didn't associate her drinking with physical pain. No, not at all.
The only kind of thing we get into the physical pain bit really is when it's then becomes the phone call to call her in for an appointment. Yeah. And then there are a couple of points after that there is the grimacing and the wincing when she's standing up and things. Because otherwise you just write that off as everyone's back always hurts.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when she spills the coffee, she has a little bit of
Yeah. But that might be because she's been hunched over her iPad, clicking away.
It could be, yeah, exactly. Clicking away. Yeah. And then we go back to Zach's room. So what about special relativity? Zach says, doesn't that blow all Newton's laws out the water? Now we can actually map gravitational waves.
That's all good, isn't it?
Very interesting topic. Now you're asking the right questions. Unfortunately, we've just run out of time.
He's a classic showman.
Yeah. We'll save that for next time.
That's how he gets it. He's going to pay him to come back now.
Yeah, that's great, isn't it? That's very clever. Good marketing. And it just cuts to Zach saying, okay, thanks, which actually he says in response to, and the harder you're pushed, the further you can travel. Yes. So all of that in between stuff is cut. And that amazes me where you can edit together two things that have a lot of things in between.
I guess in some cases, I guess they may not have filmed it at all. They may have gone, they may have filmed it and gone, hang on a minute, no, Let's
Yeah.
shelve that. That doesn't work. Let's just run from that into that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess and the same charge do repel each other. It's not scripted that they kind of say that in unison with like this him realizing it as he's saying it, which is quite a nice moment.
Yeah.
And it's also talking about, yeah, him and his mum.
Yeah, there's a few of those moments, aren't there? Like when they say their name, they say their name or say hello or whatever it is, and
It's like his individual sense of rhythm, conversational rhythm.
Yeah, that's kind of like a natural thing.
That he interrupts himself.
Yes. Then talk about the tattoo. Only did it to piss his mum off. Did it work? Zach says she hasn't noticed. In the script, she hasn't even noticed.
Yeah.
Getting back to the very pedantic.
But, God, what does that mean?
But I think there is a difference between she hasn't even noticed and she hasn't noticed.
Hasn't even noticed implies that he did it for attention and that he's annoyed that she hasn't spotted it. She hasn't even noticed that. She hasn't even noticed that I'd gone to this effort to piss her off.
Yeah.
Whereas she hasn't noticed, she's gone by the wayside. She's wrapped up in her own stuff.
Yeah. There's an as you know added. As you know, objects with the same charge do repel each other. You've just talked about that bit.
Yep.
But so that's changed from but objects with the same charge. And I think there's something about an as you know that
as I know, as you know, yeah. I know you know this because I am you.
And you knew this before this point.
Yeah.
But it also just makes it a nicer, a less, me talking down to you.
Yes, it's a nice collaborative learning experience.
Exactly. As you know.
As you know.
And then there's a bit from Zach cut. You don't have to live with her. As Bob is, saying that's a strong word to use. You don't have to live with her. It's like 1 minute she's blaming me for the fact that he left. The next minute she's trying to act act like we're a weird couple or something. It's sick.
Strange line, that one.
Yeah, I'm glad that was taken out.
Yeah, it's an odd line.
Because it doesn't refer to anything particularly.
It doesn't reflect what we've seen. She tries to act like a mum.
Just a mum who's trying to take an interest in her teenage son.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then we have international kitchen night, down for dinner, more for me, added bit around the glass of wine.
And they cut out a bit about how Helen would name horses.
I'll pick horses for the Grand National.
Yes.
So a name,
I'd just choose from the names, me, and whichever's got the nicest costume. If I had a horse, I'd call it My Lovely Family. Then everyone would bet on it, make a bloody fortune. Ha! So that was all gone. I'm kind of glad it did.
Yeah, it doesn't really make any sense.
It doesn't.
And why would everyone bet on My Lovely Family?
And the Lovely Family is kind of her drunkenly kind of like grieving for the fact that
having a dig and and
then from there it just stays the same for quite some time, I think.
Yes, I think that as well.
Notice that neither of us know that. Maybe we both tuned out for a couple of pages, I don't know. Until we got to the bit where... Oh yeah, I did wonder, we probably talked about this first time round. The barcode numbers.
Yes.
Did he pick his name because he noticed the pattern in the barcode?
This is a question, yeah.
And also the fact that because there's the double letters thing within that's Bob Bliss has got the double letters in it, but also sort of not, because you've almost got a double B in the middle, which you do in that code, but you don't when you treat it as two separate things. He slips out of the Bob Bliss later on when he starts to get himself into a thing. Is that all just a bit of character and theatre around him?
Yeah. Yeah, because he's like, oh, it doesn't matter later on, isn't he? Yeah. I don't know.
It's weird because the explanation he gives is fair enough.
Yeah, it all makes sense. And he's very good at it.
Until he suddenly doesn't need to worry about it anymore for some reason.
Maybe he's done this many times.
Maybe. Or maybe just twice. Twice in a row, double. Yeah. There you go.
Maybe it's just a nice... Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Then we get, finally, another script change. So Zach comes in really enthusiastic about the about Bob winning on the Grand National. Why is Bob only putting 60 quid on? Yeah. He needs to speak to Biff Tannen from Back to the Future 2 with the almanac. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we talked about this in the original.
I'd have bet my house on that horse. And he says he's going to give me half of it for my uni fund, and then it cuts. That's nice of him, isn't it, Mum? That went. Do you think
he didn't put more money on? Maybe because he didn't have any more money, but also because he was like, "Can I be sure?"
Well,
what timeline?
Okay,
is this?
Right. What he could have done though is the day before the Grand National have gone and put that 60 quid on something else to give him more money to then put on the Grand National horse, or ignore the Grand National entirely and just put it all on something else, that the lottery. But actually no, the price is the same. You only need £2. You don't need more money. Put it on the lottery, Bob.
Yeah,
the payout is a lot more than £2,000.
That's
Bob.
True. That is true. Put it on Leicester City winning the league in 2016.
And every accumulator that goes with that you could possibly get hold of.
It's just gone Leicester for a conservative £60 on
£60 on Leicester City to win the league. Jamie Vardy to score in 11 games in a row. The total number of red cards that will be handed out over the course of the season.
I guess you've got to be careful. There's too much.
Yeah, someone might think you're a time traveller if you're not careful.
I mean, you might get the players in trouble. That would be where the attention goes. Yeah. Always be specific unless it's too specific when it comes to spot betting.
I think there'll be a throw-in in the third minute.
Yeah, there we go. There you go. There's a link.
Yeah.
There's a link. So we've
foreshadowing, post-shadowing.
A random act of kindness could be... Oh no!
I don't think Bob's a Saudi. Is Bob a Saudi's betting syndicate?
No, and there's no reference to football in this episode.
He also doesn't need to manipulate future outcomes. He already knows what they are. Yeah. There's that theory shot down. How long did that last?
There's a missing "What's wrong with him" in the script.
Yes,
an added "What's wrong with him" in the episode where Zach is talking to Helen about why he shouldn't see Bob anymore. Why? What's wrong with him? We've got no idea who he is. And I mean, that's despite the fact that maybe it is that did you pathetically come on to him? Maybe that is why she doesn't want him seeing him anymore. Yep. Why he won't be seeing him anymore. Actually, we do have no idea who he is.
That's very true. But then, do we have any idea who anyone we meet is? He came into their lives with a dead bird or dying birds, and that's just they met by chance.
It's true.
We don't know who anyone is until we've got to know them.
No, that is, of course, that's true.
So I think we should be open, more
I guess
open.
I'd just be running through the fact that he's integrated himself into their family life quite rapidly.
She invited him to tutor.
No, that's true. Yeah.
She's lonely, and he is like a focal point and something that they can that she can use to actually relate to Zach a little bit better because she's provided this. He is him. Yeah, exactly.
The best thing to relate to my child is
an older version of himself.
An older version of my child.
I also think the what's wrong with him then plays nicely with the what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
That's a nice very shortly afterwards.
Yeah.
Nicely paired up. Yeah. See, this is what you're here for.
And the two of them, it's what's wrong with us. Because
what's wrong with us?
This is basically just me and you, Mum, and there's something wrong with both of us here.
Yeah. There's also they actually took out he could be anybody.
I mean, he is anybody.
It says he's just a weirdo who turned up up at our door one day, and she stops there, but in the script she adds in, he could be anybody. He's not anybody, he is your son, but older.
But he is also anybody. I mean, everybody is anybody. We could all be anybody. It's a kind of waste of words that, like, when
anyone is everyone and anyone.
Yeah. They could be anybody.
Woman. I'm any woman.
Yeah.
I'm not any woman.
Every woman. It's all in you, mate.
Thanks. It depends what it is.
Yeah, and the conversation post-slap is slightly different in the script. So without thinking, Helen turns and slaps Zach in the face. She instantly regrets it. She's close to tears. And then immediately she says, I'm sorry, listen, I've got to go. And his face stinging, Zach turns and storms upstairs. Actually, he's already gone upstairs. And she says, I'm sorry, listen, I've got to go. She's downstairs,
kind of talking to herself at that point.
Talking to her stairs, to herself up the stairs. And then, she leaves.
She's off.
Yeah, because there's an extra Zach exclamation mark that doesn't make it to the final.
Zach exclamation mark.
A Zach exclamation mark, which you can imagine.
Yeah.
Zach, I'm sorry.
It's all going to be EastEnders there, isn't it?
Zach, yeah, my pub.
I'm not in your pub, Mum. God, this isn't a pub.
Then all true to script
until they're talking about the Doppler effect. This was where it all starts to get quite intense and lots of science chatter, and Bob has a bit removed. So he says, what I'm going to tell you now won't be in any of your textbooks, 00, because it hasn't been invented yet. But in the future, we will be able to manipulate gravitational waves, as I said, as you said, and harness the power of black holes. He doesn't say what I'm going to tell you won't be in any of your textbooks, 00, because it hasn't been invented yet. He just starts with, in the future, we will be able to manipulate gravitational waves.
Yeah.
Not sure if there's any thing about that. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I think it's probably just a bit
redundant,
unnecessarily on the nose.
The moment you say in the future, that would suggest it's not going to be in these current ones, is it?
Yeah.
Too much detail, unnecessarily detail. Gone.
Yeah, because he's about to reveal that he is him.
Yeah. Yes.
And he does that with the tattoo rather than...
To which Occam's razor would suggest that a couple of days ago he just went out and had a matching tattoo done.
I know, I did think that.
What's more likely?
Yeah, it's like, that sounds creepy. I I guess what makes it better is the fact that it's faded a bit. It looks like it's worn over time.
Could you possibly do it in grey rather than black so it looks a bit faded?
Well, yeah, there is also that. Yeah.
If I wanted to fool someone with a tattoo to make them think I'd had it longer than I actually have, get it done in grey.
No, that's the thing. And is that a failure on Zach Jr.'s part where he doesn't piece together the fact that, oh no, you saw my tattoo the other day and you made a comment on it, and I showed you it.
There is another possible explanation for this.
Exactly. But no, he is actually him.
He is him. They kind of jumble some bits around.
Yes.
At this point. Because, so, just for reference, when I talked about earlier how much less time travel, science, fiction stuff there was in this compared to what I remembered, this, in my script book, this is a 30-page script. We're about 7 pages before the end, and we're about to finally get our first bit of actual jumping between time. It's nothing. There's
very little.
So what got switched around here?
So Helen coming in happens. So the Zach, be kind to your mother, Zach, is what Bob says. You only ever have one. Science will never change that. And ours, she's not going to be around for much longer. Zach says, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And then in the script, we see Helen letting herself in and making her way to the kitchen. She seems shell-shocked. She puts down her bag and some leaflets on living with a terminal illness. Yeah. But actually we go to... That happens after Bob says, she's dying, Zach.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think we see that and hear him then giving the forecast of what's going to happen? By the time you go away to Singapore, you've stopped speaking to each other, or you will have stopped speaking to each other, and then it's going to be too late.
Mm-hmm.
I
think so.
Yeah, I think that's what happens. So it's just, nothing major, but it just makes it, I think, gives it more of an emotional punch.
Yep.
And then there's a bit of pleading. You've got to believe me, please, please. Those two pleases are added from Bob.
Okay.
And that is it for that bit. There is then Zach. Bob, I just need you to tell her I love her very much. I won't save her, it won't save her, but it could save you. Just a random act of kindness.
You said the name of the thing.
So you can have my time again. And that comes before. Yeah, so Helen picking up Bob's phone and Rudolph being there. And there's a whole thing in the script of Rudolph saying stuff to her, which I don't think happens in the actual episode.
The man who's he's Zach, can you hear me? What the fuck do you think you're doing? Oh God, please, Mrs. Wilson, try to stay calm. I think your son could be in grave danger. So that's the first bit of call. I think that
happens. Yeah, that is said. That happens after the next bit of the script, which is what I just said. Was I just need you to tell her I love her, because then I think the man whose phone this is, he's not to be trusted, you understand, blah, blah, blah.
You mean Bob? You mustn't leave your son alone with him, but he's... And then the gunshot.
We hear the gunshot.
He doesn't.
And then
I don't think
he doesn't say,
"This is Wilson. Let me speak with him, please."
Yeah, that's cut out.
Pretty horrendous shot this is in the bedroom with the Helen bursts into the room. Bob's body lies on the floor. It's not lying on the floor though, is it? It's kind of up against the wall.
It's up against the wall.
Gun in hand, spray of blood and brains on the wall. That kind of undersells quite what a mess that wall is.
Yeah, definitely.
That's horrific.
And it says Zach sits on the bed, white with shock.
Which he's not. He stood up, isn't he?
He's standing, yeah. Yeah, which just, I think, makes it probably more true to how it would be, or how it could be. And he changes, it's going to be all right, which is in the script, to everything's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. Is there a difference there? How do you feel about those
I think it's just a different phrase.
Everything's going to be
okay.
Okay.
What felt more natural to him when he was delivering.
Well, everything instead of it.
Everything's going to be okay.
Every
little thing is going to be all right.
I think that actually changes it
because
that incorporates the cancer and all the other things.
The whole situation.
Everything's going to be okay.
Everything. We're going to be all right, Mum.
Rather than it's going to be all right. It's just this situation's going to be all right. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. So we've got a very specific day here. International Kitchen Flash Forward 2062 day.
Yeah. One of my favourite things to celebrate.
Very specific, yep. Happy International Kitchen Flash Forward 2062 day. How's that different to 2063? You'll see. The structure of the room is the same, but the dressing is different. Subtly of the future. Pan along some bereavement cards on the table. Sorry for your loss. Thinking of you at this sad time. Flowers in vases. A framed photo of Bob, in quotation marks, with an elderly lady. Older Helen. Is that what they call her these days? Older Helen. Oh, this is Helen and this is Older Helen.
Sounds like a place.
Older Helen.
I'm going to Older Helen.
It's like Older Hay, is that what?
Yeah, I think that's what I'm thinking of.
It's got similar sounds at the beginning and towards the end, just not at the very end. And everything's very much on.
We don't see that photo at that point, though, do we?
No, that's true. That is true. I also like the direction of older Zach. It's different. Prepares the drinks using an app on his iDevice. What should we call it? An iDevice.
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 There's
every morning you greet me. It does.
Yeah.
It says good morning.
It does say that older Zach enters dressed in a black suit.
Older Zach. He does. He doesn't.
He's wearing a white
They're white,
suit.
aren't they? Yeah. Yes. Maybe that's a thing in the future.
Yeah.
I think it would make more. I feel like possibly due an update. Passing over to the other side. I think wearing a white suit. Apart from
they're kind of like angel suits from some kind of
Backstreet Boys video.
Yeah. Or he's 17. Or what was the take?
You're not going to turn this to take that podcast.
What was that? Never Forget. They all wore white like that, didn't they? Yeah.
And I've forgotten what it is now. Relight My Fire.
Were they wearing white in that?
I think so. That was black and white, but all in white suits, I think, for that one.
Relight My Fire.
Relight My Fire.
Good. Good.
You weren't sure about boy bands, and not just like contemporary boy bands. Across the, I mean, take that. The Backstreet Boys are not contemporary anymore, are they?
I don't know.
No.
It's all relative.
To what? Would you have described the Bee Gees as contemporary in the 90s?
No.
No. Now, that means that the Backstreet Boys are definitely not contemporary now. So, okay, yes, it is all relative. And by that token, no.
Yeah, fair enough.
Time travel.
But
yeah, I think
that's very retro. Was cut.
Yeah.
Sorry, what were you going to say?
I was going to say I do think we're due a shift from black suits to white suits for
funerals.
shifting to the other side, ascending.
Okay.
Should we
can
push
push
that?
Yeah,
You used to be in a better position to do that.
I did, yeah.
As a funeral. Imagine if you just started turning up in a white morning suit, like the end of. Did they wear white suits at the end of Tears of Laughter in the theatre?
Oh, yes. I
think
so,
they did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a white top hat and morning suit as a funeral director. You go, this is just how we do things these days, guys.
Maybe that's a reference to this. Because there aren't many other references to.
It doesn't have to, at no point have we found cross references between episodes at any point. Why tonight is the point where we've gone, there has to be. There definitely needs to be. Why isn't there? Absolutely disgraceful that there isn't more.
Yeah.
And everything's very similar to the script at this point.
Yeah.
Oh, there's actually the line time is relative in here. They must have been talking about contemporary boy bands.
Exactly. No, that's what this was a reference to. There is a cut, International TV Studio, flash forward 1962 day. Rudolph is watching the video of his alternate self. That you would forfeit my reality by trying to save your precious mother.
In
the midst of their argument at that point.
There was also a line cut before.
Was there?
Rudolph says they're talking about older Helen. And Rudolph says, that's right. She was one of the first people to try your anti-cancer serum back in 1929. I wanted to hear in her own words what she could remember. And in the script, older Zach says, not much, I would have thought.
Oh, yes.
But that goes.
That goes.
And it just went straight to, it was a long time ago. Maybe it felt a bit like a jibe. Or maybe he just forgot to say it.
Maybe
that would be ironic, wouldn't it? Maybe
he said it in another version of the
script that exists. Oh, God.
Where there's a lot more jumping around time.
In that other episode.
The one that we actually saw originally.
The one we actually saw before it was changed on iPlayer by Stephen Reese and their pesky. I mean, they actually added in something to the script. I guess they felt it was a bit. Where is it? Where they said so? Reese or Rudolph is talking about
the time
what's
machine.
Actually happened, and they actually give the time machine a name. Because I guess if you're speaking to another scientist, do you think scientists would go around calling it the time machine?
Our time machine.
Our time machine. No, it's the Transtemporal telegraph. Couldn't read my own writing there. Although I like that they then had to make it clear to us that it was our time machine.
They did keep that bit.
Yeah.
Our time machine. Just in case you can't remember. Older Zach.
And then it kind of
sticks
finishes
to the script
up there. Yeah. And it was really that little brief chunk of future chat.
Just that at the end.
That is literally it.
Yeah. And we go back to the past. Or forward to the past, where
we go back to the future, back to the future, or
and older Zach never picks up that bird.
Nope, he's not there.
But younger Zach knows something. He recognises something.
Something's wrong.
So maybe there will be a slightly different version of time,
which will be on iPlayer next time I go to watch it.
I'm sure it will be. Yeah, so there we go. We got there.
We did. I don't feel like that was as much of a trial as you clearly thought it was.
No, it wasn't much of a trial at all.
We finally got there.
No, it wasn't. And yeah, if you have any thoughts on this one, do get in touch via email, aquietnightinside09@gmail.com, or via Blue Sky at AQNIN9. And if you fancy prolonging the agony and funding the hosting of this
if in some masochistic moment you head over to paypal.me,
then yes, you can find a link in the description for this episode to drop us a few quid just to, cover the hosting costs and that kind of thing. Yes, great. Have a great week, mate.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.